My name is Jack Hunter. My retirement rank was as a lieutenant commander in the Navy. Coming out of high school, I wanted to become an aeronautical engineer. As such, my ultimate ambition was to fly for the U.S. Navy and to become part of their test pilot program. As you can see from the glassware on my head, that ambition went south rather quickly, and so I was quickly advised to find some other line of work in the Navy. At the time I thought I would probably go surface warfare, and that was my immediate goal coming out of college. I was able to garner a scholarship through the Navy ROTC program at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is in Troy, New York. And I did graduate as an aeronautical engineer. My first assignment coming out of college was on the USS Haynsworth. It was DD 700, and it was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. Reporting on board, I had hoped to get into the operations department, but the executive officer took one look at my college work and he said, "Hunter, you're an engineer." I said, "XO, I'd like to do something in the operations end." He said, "Hunter, you're an engineer." I saluted, said smartly, "Aye, aye, sir," and went off. When I first reported to Haynsworth, she had just come back from a series of at-sea operations. And when I came on board, as I indicated, the executive officer said, "You're going to be an engineer." And I thought, okay, I can do that. Engineering was one of my best subjects, especially naval engineering, while I was at college. So I had a kind of a running start on the ship's power plant, and I understood the function of steam propulsion quite well. And so this was not too much of a challenge. The basic challenge was to get to know the people in the engineering department that I was responsible for. That and homing in on my particular knowledge of the steam plant and all its little foibles. This is a World War II destroyer. It was a 600-pound steam system, and so I had a bit to learn. The greatest challenge for me was I guess accommodating myself to the smallness of a surface ship at this time. I was in a 3-man bunk room up forward of the wardroom, and it was smaller than probably many of the closets in the house that I grew up in. But I later found out that it was rather commodious when I compared it to the berthing spaces in a submarine. And we had a mess treasurer who was involved in the purchase of food. Now, when I reported on board, the mess treasurer was able to keep the mess bill to around $47, $48, maybe $50 a month. Shortly after we went on to the first deployment to the Mediterranean, our food bill went up to over $100 a month. The executive officer, who was also paying this amount, quickly found a new mess treasurer who could get the bill back down to around $50. And so I'm not sure whether the mess treasurer hiked that first bill because he was tired of being the mess treasurer, or whether it was just happenstance. Usual day was 4 hours on, 8 hours off. We did rotate that around through the day. Well, one interesting thing that we did then, and I'm not sure that they do now, was between the hours of 4 in the afternoon and 8 in the evening, we dogged the 4-hour watch. We split it in half. That caused everybody to rotate. You didn't stick with the same 4 hours every day. And it worked out pretty well. I think the Navy got away from that, and it's kind of a shame. I think being stuck on the same rotation is kind of boring. My first job was, of course, to try and get qualified as officer of the deck. And that took me initially about 6 months of being under instruction. And then I was given some additional responsibilities. Well, in port, It was just getting to know ship's routine. The responsibility for the duty officer was basically evening hours after ship's company had departed on liberty. The skipper had gone home, and so you had a duty section, and you were basically the commanding officer's representative and was responsible for the health and safety of the ship and its crew in port. At sea, you had to be able to send flashing light and read flashing light. You had to be able to interpret flag hoists. You had to know how to do things like drive the ship around when they reoriented a screen around the guide at sea. You had to be totally familiar with radio procedures, any number of things, but that took me a good year and a half to get all that under my belt.